We begin today the Gemara on the bottom of Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, where it says Tana Rabbanan. About 10-11 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braise, Zois Teira Saknois. The Teira says regarding the halachas of a Sotah at the conclusion of the parsha, Zois Teira Saknois. So it begins with the word Teiras, which is a singular term, and then it says Haknois, which is plural. So this teaches me that one woman could be drinking the waters of a Sotah once and again and repeat, because that's what it's saying here. Teiras, this one Teira of a Sotah applies kanois more than one time. That's a Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, zois, we learn from the word zois, which is an exclusionary word, this, that a woman that does not drink twice the waters of a Sotah. Rabbi Yehuda says, Maise, there was an incident. V'heyed l'faneinu Nechunya chayfes shichin. Nechunya, the one that dug the wells for the Yidden that came up to be Eile Regel. So he said, Sha'isha shaisa v'shayna, that the woman does drink and repeat again to drink the waters of the Sotah if necessary. V'kibalno edusai, and we accepted his testimony b'shnei anoshim, when it's two different husbands that the story of the Sotah with this woman occurred. But not if this happens with one husband, that he warns her and she becomes a Sotah, and then with the same husband again it happens, then she does not drink a second time. A third opinion, the Chachamim say, a woman does not drink and repeat to drink the waters of the Sotah a second time, whether it's one husband, whether it's two husbands, never. So he learns out zois that we always exclude. There's no such a thing as a woman drinking the waters of a Sotah again. So the Gemara now will explain this three-way machlekes here and how they interpret the pasuk that we quoted in the beginning of the Braise, zois teiras aknois. The Gemara begins with a question. Fragt the Gemara, v'tanakame nami yoksiv zois. Now according to the Tanakame, when the pasuk says the word zois, isn't that a term that's a miyut, excluding something? So what are we being memayet according to the Tanakame, if the Tanakame is saying that a woman will always be able to drink the Sotah waters once, and if it happens again, a second time? And then the Chachamim, the last opinion in this Braise, Nami, the question on their opinion is, Haksiv Teiras. It says Teiras, and as the Tanakama learned that Teiras Aknois indicates that a woman could drink the waters of the Sotah twice. Why do Chachamim say that she could never drink the waters of the Sotah twice? So the Gemara explains there are a few different scenarios here. Amar Rave, so Rave explains, Be'ish echad ubayol echad, if we're dealing with a woman and there's just one husband that the story is happening with, and also there's only one bayol, there's only one suspected man that had a relation with her. So in such a case, the kula amalei pligi, no one will argue that this woman will not drink the waters a second time. That's the miyut of the word zais. Zais, which is coming to exclude something, has to be excluding some case. So this is the case. If it's the same husband and the same bayol, in such a case, definitely she does not drink the waters of the Sotah again. On the other hand, b'shnei anoshim u'shnei bayalim, if the case here is with this woman that's a Sotah, two different husbands that this is happening with, and two different bayalim, two different men that are suspected here that this is happening about. So in such a case as well, the kula amalei pligi, the isha shaisa v'shayna, nobody argues that in such a case this woman will be drinking the waters of the Sotah a second time. And the reason is the chsiv teiras, because the word teiras, haknois, teaches me that she teaches it, as she drinks it rather, a second time. And the teiras, which is coming to add this, is at least in this case, where it's two different husbands and two different bayalim. Ki pligi, where is their argument here in the Tanaim of this Braise? Be'ish echad u'shnei bayalim. In a case where it's one husband, the same husband, and two different bayalim. Or the reverse, b'shnei anoshim, two different husbands, but a bayal echad, just with one bayal. And the Gemara explains all three opinions. Tanakama Savar, the Tanakama's opinion is Teiras l'rabuya kuli, that the word Teiras comes to say that really in all of the above mentioned cases, the woman will drink the waters of the Sotah again. Now there's only one case though that's being excluded. Zois, and even the Tanakama will agree that the word Zois, l'mu'ute, is coming to exclude only that one case. If it's ish echad, ubayal echad. The same husband and the same bayal, then the Tanakama will agree that she does not drink the waters of the Sotah again. So when the Tanakama says that she always drinks again, it means in most cases, but besides a case where it's one husband and one bayal. Rabbanan Basrai Savri. On the other hand, the opinion of the Rabbanan Basrai is Zais, they hold the exact reverse. That Zais Lamuti Kuli. The word Zais, the exclusionary term in the beginning of the pasuk, excludes all cases that you will not drink a second time. Tairas, when the Torah writes the word Tairas, which is including that she does drink again, L'Rabuye Shnei Anashim Shnei Bayalim. It's only in the extreme case where it's two husbands and two bayalim that she's suspected to be with, then I say that she will drink again. So that's the explanation of the first two opinions here in the Braisa. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, or rather, the first opinion and the last opinion in the Braisa, Chachamim. But now the middle opinion of the Braisa, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is Zais L'Mu'ute Tarti. The word Zais is coming to exclude two cases, and Tairas L'Rabis Tarti. And also Tairas is coming to include two cases. So as Rashi explains, because we see here a term in the Torah as a miyut, zais, to exclude, and we see a term Tairas to be marbe, that she could drink again. So this is not clear in the Torah what to be marbe and what to be memayit. So it's given over to the Chachamim to decide logically what to be marbe and what to be memayit. And therefore they distributed two were memayit and two were marbe, as the Gemara explains here. Zais Lumuti Tarti, when it says Zais and it excludes that there are two cases that she can't drink again, that's Ish Echad Ubayal Echad, if it's the same husband and the same bayal, so then she does not drink again. But also Ish Echad Ushnei Bayalim, also the case of the same husband and two different bayalim, she also does not drink again. And the reason Rashi explains is, even though there is another bayal that she's being suspected with, so that may seem to say that because she's suspected with another bayal, maybe it's like a completely new story and she should drink a second time. But Rashi explains that since it's the same husband, it seems like this husband is just dealing with her in an angry fashion, and he's just being mekana and warning her once and again, and therefore the Sotah the second time will not take effect. Tairas, but then when the pasuk says Tairas to add and include that she does drink twice, that's also coming to include two cases where she drinks twice, and that is Shnei Anoshim Ubayal Echad, if it's two different husbands, and it's even if it's the story with the same bayal, because we can't say in such a case that it's the same husband that's just getting angry at her again and again for no reason, because it's a different husband. And of course also Shnei Anoshim, if it's two husbands, a Shnei Bayalim, and it's two different people that she suspected having a relationship, for sure, in such a case, she would drink twice. So that's the explanation of the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Hadron Allah Chayamevi. This is the conclusion of the second Peirik of Masechta Sotah Chayamevi. We begin the third Peirik of Masechta Sotah, which will continue discussing the halachas of the Sotah, first regarding the halachas of the carbon mincha that she brings, and the order of how this is taking place. There's the mincha that she has to bring as a carbon, and then there's the water that she has to drink to determine if she did an aveda or not. So that's what will be the discussion here, most of this amud. The husband would take this mincha that he brought in this basket that was made from palm bast, which is called a kvifa mitzris. It's made in Mitzrayim this way. And now he places it into a klisharis to sanctify it properly into a keli of the Beis HaMikdash. And then v'noisna al yada, he places it on the woman's hands. And v'kayin meniach yada tachteha mitachteha, the kayin places his hand below her hands. Umanifa, and together they elevate this carbon mincha. That's the halacha of tenufa that the pasuk says. And the chiddush here is that both the kayin and the isha, she's the bailam, she's the owner of this carbon, they have to lift it up together. Taisus over here brings from the Yerushalmi that asks the question, how could the kayin place his hands under the woman's hands and touch her hands and lift it up together? And Taisus says it's either a kayin zakim, an older kayin, we're not concerned about him having any illicit thoughts, or even a kayin yela, Taisus says, even a younger kayin, that the Yetzer Hara will not have there's no problem with the Yetzer Hara here, because this is just a temporary thing that he picks it up together with her. Well, there are Rishonim that say that the kayin and this woman lift it up together and they're not holding it from the same place and their hands don't touch each other. Weiter, the Mishnah says the seder of how this carbon mincha would be brought is heinif. First is the tnufa, the elevating it together. Then the higish, the kayin. Here begins the avodah of the kayin. He has to bring the keli with the mincha in it and touch it to the mizbeach. Then kamatz. Then he takes off a fistful and put it into another klisharis. And the vehikter, and that is burnt in the mizbeach. V'hashar, and the remaining of the mincha nechal kayinim is eaten up by the kayinim. Zok the Mishnah, Haya Mashke, first she would drink from the waters of the Sotah, V'achakach Makrev es Minchasa, and only afterwards is the carbon mincha brought. Rab Shimon argues and says, no, the order is Makrev es Minchasa. First she brings a carbon mincha, V'achakach Haya Mashke, and only afterwards would she drink from the waters of the Sotah. Shanema, as the pasuk says, V'achar Yashke es Isha Samayim. Only afterwards, and this pasuk says, after the pasuk says the details of the kmitza and the haktara of the mincha, after that, yashke, then they give it to drink from the water. Now says Rab Shimon, im hishka v'achaka chikre v'sminchasa. However, if they reverse the order, and first they gave it to drink the water, and afterwards she was makriv the mincha, ksheira, b'diyeved, even in this order, it'll also be kosher. Rabbi Loza says to Rabbi Yoshia, and this is the Rabbi Yoshia of his generation. Do not sit down on your feet until he'll explain me this matter. So Rashi explains why the Gemara is emphasizing that this is Rabbi Yoshia de Dore, because usually we find that there's Rabbi Yoshia that argues with Rabbi Yonasan, and he was much earlier, he was a Tana. And that's usually the Gemara who Rabbi Yoshia is. But here, Rabbi Loza, which is Rabbi Loza ben Pedas, and he's an Amayra, and he's speaking to Rabbi Yoshia in this kind of a way and telling him, don't sit down until you explain this to me, he definitely would not speak to Rabbi Yoshia, which was much older than him, in this way. So therefore, it's emphasizing that he was Rabbi Yoshia of his generation, a colleague of his. So he asks him the question, from where, what's the source for this? Minayin l'mincha Sotah shetuna tnufa. What's the source that the mincha Sotah has to be elevated? So the Gemara says, Minalan, the question is from where? V'heinif ksivba. It's a clear pasuk. By the Sotah, it says that you lift up the carbon mincha. What's his question? So the Gemara explains, his question was, B'bailim minalan. How do we know that the owner of this carbon mincha, which is the Isha, has to lift up this carbon? In the pasuk over there, it says, V'heinif, referring to the kayin. The beginning of the pasuk is V'lokach kayin, then V'heinif. So why does it say here in the Mishnah that the woman as well has to lift it up together with the kayin? So he answered him, Asya yad mishlomim. We learn out Gzeira Shava, the term yad that it says here, from the term yad that it says by the carbon shlomim. Ksiv hacha, here by the carbon mincha of the Sotah, it says v'lokach hakayim yad ha'isha. And then in the continuation of this pasuk it says v'heinif. So here it uses the term yad. Uksiv hasam, and then by the carbon shlomim it says yadav tiviena, and there yadav tiviena is referring to the bailam, to the owner of the carbon that brings the carbon. So now we compare the two when we say as follows. Ma kan kayin, just like by the carbon mincha of the Sotah, the kayin is the one that has to do tenufa. Af lahalan, so too by the shlomim, kayin, the kayin also has to do the tenufa. So we're learning from Sotah to shlomim. But we also learn the reverse. So ma lahalan bailim, just like by the shlomim, this yadav refers to the bailim that he has to lift it up. Af kan bailim, so too by the Sotah, the bailim, the isha in this case, has to lift up the carbon. So what does that mean? If we're learning them both out from each other, so ketzad, maniach yadai tachas yidei bailim umenif, that the owner holds the carbon in his hands, whether it's the shlomim or in this case the mincha of the Sotah. The kayin places his hands below the hands of the bailim and they lift it up together. The Mishnah said, heinif, v'higish, v'kamatz, v'chulu, and the Mishnah said that the continuation was v'hikter, and he already burnt it, and then it said v'ashar nechel kainim, the remainder could be eaten by the kainim. And then the Mishnah continues and says, hoya mashke, he would give it to drink from the waters of the Sotah, v'achakach makriv es minchasa, only later was he makriv the carbon mincha the mizbeach. Frag the Gemara, in the order of the Mishnah there's something that's missing here. Ha'akriva, the carbon mincha was already brought and burnt on the mizbeach. You read the order of the Mishnah, it goes through the Seder, it seems. So it tells you to say that it was already burnt, and then it comes to say that you're giving it to drink, and then you're burning it. It was already burnt. So the Gemara explains what the Mishnah means. Hachi ka'amar, this is how you read the Mishnah. First it's telling you, Seder menachas keitzad, what's the Seder of what's done with this mincha of the Sotah, and that is heinif, that is v'higish, v'kamatz, v'hikter, the Seder that the Mishnah says. And v'ashar nechel l'kainim, and the rest is eaten by the kainim. But now, now it discusses a different point. regarding the two things, the Karban Mincha that's being brought and her drinking the waters, regarding this itself, Pligi Rab Shimon v'Rabbanan, here's the argument of Rab Shimon and the Rabbanan, what comes first? The Rabbanan Savri, Rabbanan's opinion is Mashkev Achakach Makrev Ismachasa. First she drinks the waters and then the Karban Mincha is brought. Rab Shimon Savar, Rab Shimon's opinion is Makrev Ismachasa v'Achakach Mashkev. That first the Karban Mincha is brought and only afterwards does she drink from the waters of the Sotah. Shenema v'Acha Yashke, as the pasuk indicates, only after everything the pasuk said about the Karban Mincha, only afterwards does she drink from the waters of the Sotah. Okay, so that's the way we understand the Sotah in the Mishnah. Then the Mishnah concluded and said, according to Rab Shimon, if the order was done in the reverse, that first she drank the waters of the Sotah and then the Mincha was brought, it'll also be kosher. So here the Gemara is going to bring a Braisa and the sources of the Psukim, and eventually the Gemara is going to come to explain here the Machlekes of the Rabbanon and Rab Shimon in our Mishnah, what's done first, the Mincha or the drinking of the waters of the Sotah. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in a Braisa. So before I read the Braisa inside, so if you look in the Psukim, to understand our Gemara, you have to see the Psukim inside, and some Gemaras you haven't quoted here on the side. In the Torah, when it talks about the woman drinking the water, it mentions 3 times the fact that she drinks the water. And we'll see soon in the term of the Gemara, one time is called Vehishka Kama. The first time it says she drinks the water, and the Torah there says she drinks the water before it even mentions the Karban Mincha being burnt on the Mizbeach. Then there's Vehishka Basra. The second time the Torah talks about her drinking the water, and there the Torah says about her drinking the water. That's already after the Karban Mincha was brought. And then a pasuk before that, it actually says a third time Va'achar Yashke, and that's also a pasuk that's written after the Karban Mincha is burnt already on the Mizbeach, and it says after it's burnt on the Mizbeach, after that Yashke as a isha samayim, then she drinks the water. So these are 3 different times: pasuk Chav Dalid, pasuk Chavav, and pasuk Chav Zayin. So what this Gemara will address is what's the need for the Torah to say all 3 times this halacha that we give the woman to drink this waters of the Sotah. So the Gemara begins, the Braisa here says, Vehishka matamad loima, the first time when the Torah says that we give her to drink the water. Why does it say this? V'alek farnema vehishka, but the Torah later tells me that Vehishka, and there, according to this Tan in the Braisa, it's understood that it's the second time that it says Vehishka, that's coming to tell me the main halacha, that she only drinks it then. Because the Torah says Va'acha Yashke. Va'acha Yashke means that she'll only drink the waters of the Sotah after she brings the Karban Mincha. So when the Torah says Vehishka the second time, we understand that that's the main point, that it's only going to be given to her to drink after the Karban Mincha was brought. So the question over here is, the first time, when it says Vehishka, that we're giving her to drink the waters before, why is it saying it now? It's not in time, it's not in place over here to give her to drink the water now. So the answer is, She'im Nimchaka Megillah. If they already erased the scroll with Hashem's name in the water, and now she comes along and she says, Eini Shaisa, I don't want to drink it, we force her against her will to drink the waters. This is Rabbi Akiva's opinion. So the Chiddush over here is, according to Rabbi Akiva, that she's really not supposed to be drinking the water before the Karban Mincha is brought, only later, which means that the scroll with Hashem's name should have not been erased at this point in the waters, because the Karban Mincha wasn't brought yet. You're not going to erase Hashem's name at an earlier opportunity than necessary. They would wait until after the Karban Mincha is brought to erase Hashem's name. So the fact that it was erased before, this is done shaloi kedin. So you may think that if it was erased before and now she comes along and says, I'm not drinking, we're not going to force her to drink because it was erased shaloi kedin. So just because it was erased, we're not going to force her to drink because it wasn't erased properly. On that, Rabbi Akiva comes and says, the first Vehishka, the Torah writes before the Mincha was brought, is coming to tell you that even if it was erased shaloi kedin before, nevertheless, we're going to force her to drink these waters. But she's actually going to have to drink it after the Karban Mincha is brought. That's Rabbi Akiva's pshat here. Now Rab Shimon says, now the point over here, Rabbi Akiva's opinion is that first the Karban Mincha is brought, and then she drinks the waters of the Sotah. Right? And this first Vehishka is just talking about the situation where it was already erased before that we forced her to drink. Rab Shimon, regarding the main point, that first the Karban Mincha is brought, and then she drinks the waters of the Sotah, agrees to Rabbi Akiva, like Rab Shimon already said this in the Mishnah. But as far as these psukim here are concerned, the three psukim where it says that she drinks the water of the Sotah, Rab Shimon does darshan them a bit differently, and there will be a certain difference in halacha between Rab Shimon and Rabbi Akiva, as we'll see. Rab Shimon says, Va'acha yashke ma tamid loimar. What do we learn from this that the Torah says? That Va'acha yashke, that afterwards, after the carbon of the mincha is brought, then she drinks it. Why does the Torah have to say that? The Torah already says v'hishka, that we give her to drink the waters after the carbon mincha is brought. So in essence, the Torah is telling us twice the halacha that after the mincha is brought, that she's given to drink the water. Why does it have to say this? So this is a different question which Rabbi Akiva did not address. So Elo, says Rab Shimon, la'acha kol ma'isum kulin ha'amurin la'mayla. The pasuk is writing again va'acha yashke, not only v'hishka but va'acha yashke, to tell me that after everything that the Torah mentions over here, only then could she drink from the waters. What is this coming to add and teach? Magid, this tells me that Gimel Dvarim Ma'akfim Ba. There are three things mentioned here in the pasuk that hold up from giving her to drink the waters of the Sotah. Actually, Karav HaKaimitz. You can't give it to drink before the kaimitz is burnt on the mizbeach, v'achaloi nimchaka megillah, or before the megillah is erased in the water, v'achaloi tekabel oleh shvua, and before she accepts the shvua that the kohen has a swear that she didn't sin and that she accepts the punishment. Before that, she cannot drink from this. That's what the second va'acha yashke is coming to teach. So the Gemara now will explain over here what Rab Shimon was saying regarding these three details that hold up us giving her the water to drink. What does this mean? We don't give it to drink the water unless the kaimet is burnt on the mizbeach. Rab Shimon l'taimei. Rab Shimon is following his opinion that we had already in the Mishnah, the Omar. Makriv es mechasa. First the carbon mincha is brought, v'achakach mashke, and only afterwards do we give it to drink these waters. Now then, Rab Shimon also said, we can't give it to drink the waters before the scroll with Hashem's name is erased in the Megillah. That seems to be obvious. If he didn't erase the scroll in the water, so what is he giving it to drink? Just plain water or water with the earth in it? The main thing is the scroll that you erase inside. What's the chiddush here? Rav Ashi explains, the point over here is that it should be fully erased. There shouldn't be any mark of the writing of Hashem's name that's written in the scroll. It has to be completely erased. That's why the Torah is writing va'achar yashke, to tell me that it has to be completely erased. The third thing that Rab Shimon mentioned, that she does not drink unless she accepted upon herself the shvua. So the Gemara is medayik of this, mishte hudulei shasya. So from here it sounds like that she can't drink until she accepts the shvua. Hamichtav kasvila. But they could write the Megillah for her even before she accepts the shvua. But that's not true because Rav said, and we learned this before already, Megillas Sotah Shakasva, Kaidim Shetakabel Aleh Shvua. If the Megillah of the Sotah is written before she accepts the Shvua upon herself, it's nothing has been done, it's not accepted. It has to be written dafka after she accepts the Shvua upon herself. So why are we bringing this up over here regarding her drinking? She can't even write it before she accepts upon herself the Shvua. So the Gemara answers and says, you're right, Kidi Nasva, this third detail is mentioned here for nothing. It doesn't really belong here. It mentioned other things, it mentioned this as well, but it really doesn't belong here because that can't even be written before she accepts the Shvua upon herself. Okay, so this is the Braisa where we have the discussion between Rab Shimon addressing why it says Vehishka twice, and Rab Shimon addressing why it says Va'achar Yashka as well. But the point is, both Rab Shimon and Rab Akiva agree that first the carbon mincha is brought, and only afterwards does she drink the waters of the Sotah. But now the Gemara comes back to the Mishnah. In the Mishnah we had the opinion of the Tanakama, the Rabbanan, that say that no, first she drinks the waters of the Sotah, and only afterwards does she bring the carbon mincha. So now the Gemara will explain the machlokes based on these three psukim where Torah tells us 3 times that she drinks the water of the Sotah. So what's the basis of the argument between the Rabbanan and Rab Shimon? Plus a kroiksivid. Argument is because it says here 3 times in the Torah her drinking the waters of the Sotah. As I mentioned before, Vehishka Kama, it says the first time that we give her to drink, and this is before the mincha is brought. That's the order that it's written there in the pasuk. Then it says Va'acha Yashke. Then it says that after the mincha is brought, she should drink. And then Vehishka Basra, it says that a third time that we give her to drink the water. So how do we darshan these psukim? Rabbanon Savri, Rabbanon. So the Rabbanon hold that first she drinks, and only afterwards does she bring the mincha. So the way the Rabbanon interpret this pasuk is V'hishka kama. The first time it says V'hishka lugufay. This is telling me the halacha itself and the order of how this is done, which is shemashke. First we give it to drink the waters, v'achakach makriv es mechasa, and only afterwards does she bring the carbon mincha. So that's the first v'hishka. In the right order, the pasuk is telling you first v'hishka, and then later in the pasuk it says that the carbon mincha is brought. Now when it says v'achar yashke, when the pasuk says that afterwards she drinks, now the simple pshat of the pasuk reads that after she brings the carbon mincha, then she drinks, but that can't be the pshat, because according to the Rabbanon, from the first v'hishka, we already learn out that she drinks it before. So v'acha yashke, afterwards. When it says afterwards she drinks, the afterwards has to be referring to something else, not after the carbon mincha. So after what? Mi bayale, it's coming to teach me l'sharishumay niker, that only after it's fully erased and there's no mark left over from what's written in the scroll, then she can drink. That's what the v'acha goes on. Now, v'hishka basra. What is the last v'hishka coming to teach? She'im nimchaka megillah, that if this Megillah was erased, and vaimeres eini shaise, and then she comes and says, no, I refuse to drink from these waters. Once the Megillah is erased, so now she can't refuse anymore. We force her against her will to drink from the waters of the Sotah. That's what the last v'hishka is coming to teach. Again, the last v'hishka, according to the Rabbanon, is not saying the order that she only drinks later, but because she really drinks it before, but it's coming to teach me that after it's erased, we force her to drink from the waters. This is the Rabbanon, that first she drinks, and then the carbon mincha. Rab Shimon Savar, Rab Shimon's opinion is va'achar yashke legufay. When the Torah writes va'achar yashke, and the simple pshat of the pasuk is that only after the carbon mincha is brought, then does she drink from the waters. That is coming to tell me the very halacha itself and the order of how it's done. Shemakriv es minchasa va'achakach mashke, that first the mincha is brought, and only afterwards does she drink from it. Now, v'hishka kama, when the Torah writes earlier on v'hishka, the first time that she drinks, what is the Torah coming to say here? This is not the order. She's not supposed to be drinking at this time. Why is it saying it over here? So Rab Shimon learns out from here, she'im hishka v'achakach hikriv es mechasa. According to Rab Shimon, it's coming to say that bidi yaved, if it was done out of order, and she first was given the waters to drink, and only afterwards was the mincha brought, ksheira, then it'll be kosher. So Rashi points out, here we see the difference between Rab Shimon and Rab Akiva. Even though they both agree that the order is supposed to be first the mincha and then she drinks the waters, but here we see that there's a difference in how you darshan the first v'hishka and the pasuk. According to Rab Akiva, the first v'hishka and the pasuk is taught to say that even if the Megillah was erased before the carbon mincha was brought, so it was erased in a time that it wasn't supposed to be, we force it to drink from it anyways. But according to Rab Shimon, we learn out something else. According to Rab Shimon, we learn out that b'di'evet, if she was given the waters to drink before the mincha, that order is good as well. So that's a machlekes here. It comes out there's 2 points that Rab Shimon and Rab Akiva are arguing about. Rab Shimon doesn't hold of Rab Akiva's drasha. If it was erased out of order, Rab Shimon says we're not going to force her to drink it. And Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold of Rab Shimon's drasha. That b'di'evet, if she drank it out of order before the mincha, that's good. No, Rabbi Akiva holds it, she must drink it after the mincha. So here we see a difference between Rab Shimon and Rabbi Akiva. Continuing in the Gemara, now according to Rab Shimon, v'hishka basra, when the Torah writes a second time afterwards that she drinks it, why is it saying it again? Shem nimcha ka Megillah, that if now, and this is according to Rab Shimon, only after the mincha is brought, if now the Megillah is erased, v'amra eini shaisa, and she says that she's not going to drink from the waters, ma'arer anaisa o mashke anaisa balkarcha, we force her, she drinks it against her will. So that's the machlokes here based on these 3 psukim. What is the main thing that the Torah is coming to say? Is the first v'hishka teaching that that's the order, that first she drinks and then the mincha, or is the va'achar yashke that says later, that tells me the main order, that first the mincha and then she drinks. So the Gemara now explains the opinion of the Rabbanon. Ve'Rabbanon. According to the Rabbanon, why did they not want to interpret the va'achar yashke literally? It's very clear in the pasuk, va'achar yashke, that after the mincha, then she drinks. Why didn't the Rabbanon learn this way? So the Gemara explains, because Rabbanon b'di'eved le'pasach kra. Because it comes out that according to Rab Shimon, the first v'hishka that the Torah writes is coming to tell me a halacha b'di'eved. What happens if b'di'evet, after the fact, she went and she drank it, and before she brought the mincha, it'll be good as well. The Rabbanan say the Torah is not going to open and tell us the vihishka the first time with the scenario of b'di'evet. So their first vihishka is teaching me the main halacha, the order, the way it's supposed to be done, that first she drinks, and then the mincha is brought. Now, the Gemara focuses on one point that Rabbi Akiva said over here. Rabbi Akiva says that we force her to drink the waters of the Sotah in a case where the Megillah was already erased. Fragt the Gemara, is this Rabbi Akiva's opinion that that we give her to drink the waters of the Sotah against her will? But Vatanya, whether it's in the Braise, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kalabus shal barzel matirin l'toich piyah. There was this iron hooks that they would place into her mouth and to force her to drink. And when is that? If this Megillah was erased, and Va'amra eini shaisa, and she comes and says, I refuse to drink the waters, we give her to drink against her will. That's Rabbi Yehuda. On this, Amar Rabbi Akiva responds and says, the only reason we're giving her to drink these waters is the waters will inspect her to see if she sinned or not. But this woman that refuses to drink the waters, we could consider her to be already inspected. We can know already this matter. Why is she refusing to drink the waters? Because she accepted this oath and she knows the curse that would happen to her, that she dies if she sins. And that since she sinned, she refuses to drink. If she didn't sin, why is she refusing to drink? So therefore, it's already known what she did, so there's no reason for her to drink anymore. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva here is saying we do not force her to drink. Now the Braisa continues, according to Rabbi Akiva, Elo, rather, if before the Karban Mincha was brought, she can retract and say that she doesn't want to drink. But once the Kaimis was brought, then she cannot retract and we will force her to drink. Okay, now the Gemara right here will address the question that Rabbi Akiva seems to all of a sudden be saying that we do force her to drink. But Rabbi Akiva just said that there's no point in forcing her because the fact that she's refusing to drink means that she's basically admitting that she's sinned. That's why she's afraid to drink from these waters. Okay, the Gemara addresses this right here. But the point that the Gemara is asking is that we have a contradiction here, at least from the beginning of the statement of Rabbi Akiva, to what Rabbi Akiva said before. Rabbi Akiva learned out from the pasuk that we force her to drink. And here, Rabbi Akiva is saying that we don't force her to drink. So the Gemara immediately clarifies and asks, so you're asking this contradiction here in Rabbi Akiva's opinion, but tikshilach hi gufa. There's really a contradiction here in this Braisa itself. Because the Braisa said, Mishakarev HaKaimitz, once the Karban Mincha is brought, Eini Chayla Lachsaba, she cannot retract, we force her to drink. But the question is, didn't Rabbi Akiva say that this woman is already as if she's been inspected? Fact that she's refusing shows us that she sinned, and therefore there's no reason for her to drink. So what's the story of Rabbi Akiva's opinion? Does she have to drink or does she not have to drink? So the Gemara answers, Loi Kashya, this is not a question. Why? Because now it depends. We have to look over here at this woman that's refusing to drink and see what's her motivation. Why is she refusing to drink? Oh, the Kahadraba Machmas Resise. If it's a situation where this woman is refusing to drink and she's trembling, she's very afraid, she's very unsure what's going to happen with her. That's one situation, as we'll explain here. And then you have a woman that is refusing to drink the water, and she's very strong with herself, she's confident, she's healthy, she's strong, she's not trembling. Now what's the difference? The Gemara explains. This is how you have to learn the Pshat and the Braise here. If this woman is refusing to drink and she's very strong with herself that she doesn't want to drink, so then klala shasya, there's no reason to have her drink, and the reason is the fact that she's so confident that she doesn't want to drink is because this woman did an Aveda, she's tameh, she's going through all the steps, and she says to herself, when it'll come the time to drink, I'm not going to drink, because I know that the drinking itself will cause the curse, so I'm not going to do that. So therefore, she's very confidently standing there and saying, I'm not going to drink. That's an indication that she sinned and she's calculated, and therefore it's as if she's inspected already and she never drinks. There's no reason to force her to drink. Now, machmas resise, however, then the Braisa comes and tells us that if it's a situation where we see that she's trembling, she's afraid, she doesn't want to drink, but she's very afraid. So then, that's not so clear she's afraid to drink from the waters because she doesn't know. Even if she didn't sin, she's not trusting that the waters won't affect her. She's afraid of the waters. So then we can't say that she's already like inspected, that it's already known. And here there's a difference. And the Braisa tells us, if the Korban Mincha was not brought yet, so therefore, usually you're not supposed to erase the Megillah before the Kaimetz is brought. That's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, that she drinks only afterwards. Inami, or even Imchik Megillah, even if they did erase the Megillah before the Kaimetz is brought, so this Braisa is telling us that it doesn't matter. The Shaloi Kedin Ovid Kainim, the Machki, because what the Kainim did, that they erased the Megillah before the Mincha was brought, was not supposed to be erased at this point of time. So in such a case, Matzi Adraba, she can refrain, she could say, I'm not interested in drinking. That's before the Mincha, or even if it was erased out of order, so she can say that she doesn't want to drink and we won't force her. However, once the kaimis is brought, the bedin of it kainim the machi. But so now everything was done in the order. The mincha was brought, and then they erased it, and everything was done properly. So now in a situation where she's trembling, shaking, and we see she's afraid, so the fact that she refuses to drink is not a clear indication that she sinned. So now the water was erased properly. We're going to have to force her to drink. So there's no contradiction in Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Here Rabbi Akiva is saying that she does not drink, that's if she's very confident. So we see that she's calculated and she sinned. And in the Braisa, in the beginning of the Amud, where it said that we give her to drink and we force her to drink, that's if she's trembling. Okay, but now the Gemara focuses on one detail here where it comes out that there's a contradiction here in Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Says the Gemara, it comes out now that Kashye, the Rabbi Akiva, ad Rabbi Akiva. There's a contradiction here in Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Why is that? Hasam Omar, Mechike Ma'akve. In the Braisa that's quoted in the beginning of the Amud, Rabbi Akiva says the Mechike is the only thing that holds up here, which means that the moment the Megillah was erased, she's going to be forced to drink. And in the beginning of the Amud, Rabbi Akiva explained that the Vihishka Kama, the first Vihishka, says that even if it was erased out of order, Shalai Kedin, still we're going to force it to drink, as long as it was erased. That's the first Braisa. And V'hocham, but over here in the second Braisa, it clearly spells out Kaimetz Ma'akiv, that we have to look if it was erased in the proper order. Only if the Korban Mincha was already brought and afterwards it was erased, then do we force it to drink. So what's the story? According to Rabbi Akiva, will we force her to drink in a situation where it was erased automatically, no matter if it was in order or out of order, or only if it was done in the right order, as the second Braisa says, that it was done after the Korban Mincha was brought? So the Gemara says, yes, this is taka two opinions. Today, Tanoi, Vali with Rabbi Akiva. These are two different Tanoim that are explaining Rabbi Akiva's opinion.